Greetings hobbyists, this is Artisans of All, and today we're going to be making a rotor gun or some other weapon that requires multiple barrels that's going to require us to use a radial array or other similar device. We're going to do this in several stages. So the first stage is going to be to make the weapon itself, and then we're going to go through two ways of duplicating the barrel using an array. The first way is going to be to use hard ops, which is a much easier and faster way of doing it, but we will go through another way of using just the functions and add-ons that are native to Blender. So let's get started. First thing, just going to delete everything on here. We don't need any of that, and we're going to start with a cylinder. So Shift A, and we want a cylinder. Now, if I go to the bottom left-hand side, I can change the amount of vertices or edges that I'm going to have on this cylinder, and while I normally design this for printing in 8mm or 6mm, depending on what your opinion of the scale of Adeptus Titanicus is, or Epic, I'm going to have this so that theoretically you can print it in a larger format. So I want a minimum of 64 edges to this cylinder. And then I'm going to go side on, and I'm going to rotate this round. So I'm going to click on it, R to rotate, and just typing in 90 on the number pad. Now, obviously, as a barrel, this is looking a little bit short, so let's extend this. So scale, and at the moment we're going to be doing this on the y-axis, okay, to something a little bit more barrel length. I can always change this later. And then we're going to go into and change this. Now, I've got machine tools, so I can do this relatively quickly, but obviously you can go to the top and go into face mode. I'm going to select the face at the end, and to make these sort of larger, I guess you'd call it the muzzle of the barrel. So to first do that, you'll notice if I scale it, it's just going to scale the whole thing, and obviously we don't want that. So I need to extrude it first by pressing E, then I can press escape, but that extruded face is still there, so I can then press S to make that larger. That's probably about right, and then I can extrude that to bring that out a little bit further. Cool, happy with that. Right, next we need to make the indent, essentially, of where the sort of bullet or shell comes out, depending on what sort of size gun this is. So I've just pressed I to inset, and I'm going to press E to extrude it. Now I'm going to go side on and press Shift Z so I can see what I'm doing, and extrude it in, and I can see where I'm up to. And I want to leave a little bit of space there at the end so that it doesn't cause a problem with printing. So that should be enough. Shift Z, and I'm back into looking at my barrel. So pretty happy with that. Now let's make it a little bit more interesting. I'm going to go press X at the top to go into side view, and I'm going to make another cylinder. Oops, Shift A, and we're going to find another cylinder here, and we're just going to G to move it, and we're going to move it along the y-axis so it's at the end, just a little bit beyond the center point at the tip of the barrel. I'm going to scale that to be a bit smaller, and then S and Z to scale it on the Z axis. Let's have a look at this from another angle. Maybe let's scale that a little bit more to make it a bit bigger. Cool, so this is going to be a nice indent out of the barrel, just to make it a little bit more visually interesting. And I'm going to duplicate that, bring it up to there so it's only cutting through on one side. And again, I'm going to scale that a little bit bigger, and then move it up G and Z on the Z axis. And you'll notice I'm making sure that it doesn't cut through all the way, just for when it's done in this array to put it into the multiple barrels. You'll see what we're doing with that later. So I'm just going to select both of those, and then select the barrel so that it's the active part, and then using ball tools, I'm going to press Control and minus. Okay, ball tools is an add-on that's just there. If you haven't watched one of my other videos on how I like my setup, you can access ball tools by edit, preferences, and where it says add-ons here, if you just type in ball tools, okay, you can just select that on, and it allows you to press Control and minus to do all that. And over here I can have a look, and it's automatically added those in. So let's hide that and hide that, have a look at it, make sure I'm happy with that. Yeah, that looks pretty nice. Okay, right, let's apply that. I don't need that anymore. That's perfectly fine. Now, we need these barrels to go into something, so sort of the main rotating sort of drum of the barrel. So I'm going to again create oops, Shift A, another cylinder. Now this is going to be a bit bigger, so I'm actually going to go to 128 vertices. Now, if you weren't doing this for 3D printing, that's totally excessive. You don't need 128 vertices ever really, but for 3D printing, we want to make this a nice smooth surface, and that's going to be the easiest way to do it. And bearing in mind what else we're doing, it's not going to be unmanageable for most computers to do that. So again, making sure I'm perfectly in X or on the X axis, so I'm not rotating at some weird angle. R, 90 degrees, I'm going to scale that up nice and big, so I'm going to want multiple barrels on this. And G and Y, let's move that along to there. Okay, let's have a look at this in comparison. I think I want this barrel being a little bit bigger. Let's have a look at front on. Yeah, something probably equivalent to about that. That looks about right. I can fiddle with that later. So this is going to be the main drum that sort of rotates and keeps the barrels with it. And then obviously I've got my barrel, and this is the bit that we're going to have to use some sort of array to multiply out. Now obviously we could be doing this by hand, but I mean Blender's going to be able to do this for us, and if we're sort of moving this around ourselves and sort of trying to guesstimate where everything's going to be, that's not going to be perfect. Like I'd put one there, duplicate one there, duplicate one there, so Shift D. Like already it's looking a bit, yeah, I mean it's just crap, to be frank. So let's get rid of that and let's do this the proper way. So first up, we're going to do this with HardOps. This is the faster way. HardOps is a paid for app. It's $38 and it's worth every penny. I'm not affiliated with HardOps in any way, shape or form. Honestly, it's just that good, and you'll probably see why. So I'm going to Shift D and just move this along the X-axis, just so I've got multiples of this and I can do this both ways. So we're just going to start with this one. Let's hide those two, just so we don't have to worry about that at all. And we're going to start with this. Now, honestly, this is this easy with HardOps. I'm just going to go here to make sure I can see it, sort of a little bit off the Y-axis. It just makes everything a little bit easier to see. And all you do is select what you want to make into the array, press Q, Mesh Tools, Radial Array, and then I can move this. Now at the moment you can see this is making a massive amount of different things and geometry. I don't want that many, and I can just use my middle mouse button and rotate it to have as many as I want. So in this instance I want 5, but you could have, for example, like 6, 7, 9, okay, however many barrels you want and you can fit in. And all I'm doing is just moving my mouse closer or further from where it started to move those out. So let's get that back down to 5, which is what I want. And we're going to put that in sort of around here. I want the barrels close together but not touching. Let's have a look at that front on. Yeah, that is pretty much it. Okay, that's looking pretty sharp. Now, the one thing that's really nice about this with HardOps is I can change this. If I just go into the array, you've got the strength here. Okay, sorry, let me just show you that. So you've got two different arrays here. You've got the radial array here, or the sort of standard array, and that's got the count. So I can still edit that and move that up to 5 or 6. Okay, I'm going to go down to 5 because that's what I want. And if I go to the other modifier, you've got the strength here. That is, oh, I just realized I've only gone into 4. Let's put that up to 5. And here in the other one, you've got your strength, and that's how far away they are out from the center. Okay, so even afterwards, if I'm not perfectly happy, like I don't like this, I want them a little bit closer. Okay, I can make sure that looks about right. So I want it about there. Okay, so really, really quick and easy to do. And I'm going to be honest, like this is the way to do it if you've got the choice. The other thing that's really useful for this is, I mean, it's so fast that you can do things really comfortably. So if I just bring in, let's say, a quad sphere, which is going to be out here. Okay, let's move that over to here. So I'm just pressing Shift and S, and I'm moving the cursor to the selected one. So at the moment it's there, right in the center of that drum. And then I'm going to select this one, Control S, and then I'm going to move this to the cursor. So again, it's perfectly in the middle of that drum. I'm going to scale it down a little bit, Okay, so essentially all I've got is a sphere here, and I'm just going to do exactly the same thing. Let's make that actually nice and small to effectively make some rivets. And Q, Mesh Tools, Radial Array, and you'll notice here it's actually going in the wrong direction. I can just press X, and it rotates to the other way, and then X again till it's the point where I am. So X, just if I've got it rotating on the wrong, or sorry, arraying on the wrong axis, if I go above here, you can see what it's doing here. It's doing it outwards, then X is again, and then X. I'm just going to get back to the front, and I've just realized this is going to be slightly annoying because I can't actually get to the point where I can see this really nicely, but that's fine because I can just modify it later. So I'm going to get it to where I about want my rivets, and how many rivets do I want? I don't know, somewhere like, let's say 2 per barrel, so I've got 10. That should look quite nice. Maybe a few more. Maybe 12, 13, 14. Yeah, let's stick with that. Okay, at the moment, let's go back into the front. View with Y, let's check everything's where I want it to be. I need to modify the strength of that a little bit to get it a bit further out. There we go. And if I do want to edit any of these, I can edit the size. So all I need to do is click into it. And you'll notice if I just press / on the number pad to go into it by itself, / on the number pad just hides everything else other than you've got selected. If you press it again, it comes back out. If you want to say it in relation to things, which I sort of do, I'm just going to press Shift and Z to make things basically in X-ray mode. I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller, and you notice it's doing it from the original position, but as soon as I select off of it, go back to object, it goes back to where it was. So again, I've just made those rivets a little bit smaller. In fact, I think I want them a bit smaller still. So again, I'm going to shrink that down and go back into object mode. That looks pretty nice. Let's move the strength down a little bit. There we go. Okay, somewhere around there. And okay, that's a little bit annoying because I can't actually change it here, so I'm just going to tap into it and put -4.4. Yeah, that's about where I want it. Okay, so, and then I can just G and Y, and then that'd be one set of rivets. Let's duplicate that with Shift D and what? Oh, okay, yeah, this is having a bit of a funky thing. So I'm gonna have to apply all, and then I can G and Y, and I've got my second set of rivets. Okay, and they're nicely aligned. I'm gonna apply those as well, and then let's grab both of them, Shift D and Y, and then I have my second set of rivets at the back, and yeah, looking pretty good. I think I actually want to duplicate this D, Y, and then SY to have that sort of forward facing or forward support. Put that there, GY, and then let's copy one of these again, DY, and then put that there. So we've got those rivets matching. Cool, looking pretty sharp. Okay, so that was hard ops. Let's go into doing this with standard Blender. Now, this is perfectly possible. It's just a little bit more long-winded, and it's going to require us doing several things. So first of all, we're going to want to get the cursor back to our central point, and I haven't moved this off the origin, so I can just press Shift and S. Okay, and let's get that back to the origin. Okay, so that's nice and easy. Now, there are several things we have to do with this, and this does have a tendency to go wrong, so I'm quite pernickety with what I do to set this up. First thing I'm going to do is press Control and A, and I'm going to apply the rotation and the scale of my barrel, because I was fiddling around with the scale to move it or to make it longer in the y-axis, so that's the first thing to do. And then I need to get this to where I want it. Now, this is going to cause an error if I do this wrong. So for example, if I just press G and Z, okay, because I want it about there, just like the other one, this is going to go horribly wrong when I do the array, because effectively the array needs to work off the origin. So this at the moment doesn't work, so I need to go back. What I need to do is actually go into vertex mode or whatever mode, select everything, and then I can press G and Z and move it, and you'll notice that origin is staying exactly where I want it, okay, in the middle of the object I'm going to rotate around, and that's really important, otherwise everything goes wrong. So back into object mode, and I've got it exactly where I want it. Now we're going to use an array for this, and you may have used an array before, so all I'm doing is add modifier. So I'll come over here. We're using the modifier tab over here. Add modifier, array. And you'll notice normally when I do an array, or you do an array, it's something that just basically multiplies to a fixed count. So for example, at the moment it's going in the X, however much, and I can sort of click on it and move it around. I can sort of select it and say I want it to be 2 away. So notice that there's 1 space, and then this is the second one, and it's doing it on the X axis at the moment. I could change that to 0 and do it on the Z axis and do 2, and again it's 2 up, and you can change the count by having multiples, but this is not what we want. It's just doing it in a straight line, and it's not going to function the way that we want. So let's get that back down to 2 just for the sake of it. So this is using what we call relative offset, and this is not what we want to do. Okay, so we don't want to use the relative offset. We want to offset it around an object, and you can see that down here, object offset. But first of all, we need to make the object to offset it around, and essentially you just don't really want anything. So this is what, if I press Shift and A, okay, you have empties for. So I'm going to go down to empty, and I'm just going to click plain arrows. It doesn't really matter which one you use, but I like the axis, sorry, not the arrows. Okay, and essentially that's just made this. Okay, and you can just see it there, this axis here, and it's quite useful to have that because it sort of shows the orientation that it's in. And we're going to rotate it around that. So back to our object that we want. The array's still there. I need to click off the relative offset. If something's going wrong, most of the time it's because you haven't applied the rotation and the scale, or because you've still got relative offset clicked on, and you can click 2 at the same time, and that just causes a hell of a mess. So click off radial offset, object offset, and we've got to select the object that we want. Okay, so we've got 2 ways of doing this. We can either use the dropper bottle or the dropper icon, whatever you'd call it, or we can click here and go down to the thing, and we just want the empty. Now I've got a couple of radial empties. That's over there because of the what we did with hard ops. So just to be safe, I'm just going to click there and click on the empty. And at the moment, it's not doing anything, or at least it looks like it's not doing anything, because at the moment the empty is in the same place it always was relative to the thing we're arraying. If I press R and start rotating it, you can see actually it has made a copy, and that copy is going to be exactly relative to the first one, exactly where it is compared to what this object has done. So if we're rotating it, it will rotate it around. So at this point you need to make some decisions, and you have to make these decisions at this point, really. I mean, you can fiddle with it later, but essentially we want 5 copies of this. So I need to rotate it however much will make the perfect angle for 5 copies. Now, obviously I could start trying to work that out and guess it. You can see in the top left-hand corner, you've got the rotation, but it's not going to be an easy way to do it. So what I do is I just click a certain amount. It doesn't matter, I'm just guessing. And then you can see in the bottom left, you've got this rotate. If you don't, it's just small. You just click on the button there. And it's got the angle that it's gone round. So at the moment, minus 77.7 degrees, whatever, that doesn't make a difference. We need to do a full circle, so that's 360 degrees divided by 5. Now, instead of reaching for a calculator, Blender will do this for you. You can just type it into the bar. So angle, I'm just doing 360 divided by 5, hitting enter, and it's done it. That is a fifth of a way around, which is 72 degrees. And if I now click back on the original object, and I've got my count of 2, I can just up that to 3, 4, and 5. And you can see that has had the same effect as what we did originally with hard ops. It just takes a little bit longer, and to be honest, there's a little bit more to go wrong. So that's our 2 methods of doing that. One with hard ops, okay, which obviously you have to pay for. One with another method that's free. Either way, you can get the same effect. It just depends on what you want to do and what sort of options you want to go for. So hopefully that was nice and clear for you guys. 2 ways of making arrays in a circular motion to give yourself something like multiple barrels, or potentially for doing things like rivets around a circular object. If there's any other things that you'd like to see in terms of videos of how to do things for Blender when making things for 3D printing, do please write something in the comments section if there's anything you're unsure about, and please subscribe so you can get notified when any new videos are out. Make sure you click that bell icon so that YouTube informs you when I post a new video. Have a great day, guys.